Hi, I'm Tony Reardon, NTEU National President. Welcome and thanks for joining us. See, your health and safety are priority number one for NTEU. That's why today we want to give you as much information as possible to be sure that you can take care of yourself and your family. Now, before I turn it over to our presenters, I want to share these thoughts. From the very first days of the pandemic, NTEU pulled out all the stops to protect you. We made our case to agency leadership, the administration, Congress, and the media when necessary. We fought for maximum telework, a host of leave options, workplace precautions, and vaccine priority for those who had to report to work. As agencies start thinking about return to work plans, our efforts to be responsive to your needs continue. That means negotiating for expanded telework and other workplace flexibilities. To be successful, we need every bargaining unit employee to stand with NTEU. By supporting NTEU, you ensure your workplace issues are front and center. Look, it's not officially summer yet, but we've already kicked off our summer membership campaign to make sure our union is as strong as it can be. So next, you're going to hear from Kata, Sybenga, Director of Legislative and Political Affairs for NTEU, on the American Rescue Plan Act, followed by Doreen Greenwald, Special Assistant to the National President, on the specifics of the COVID leave policies. Now, one final thought. This is your union, and here, your health and that of your family is critically important. And so I want to thank all of you for everything that you do in service to our nation. Thank you. Kata, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tony. As Tony mentioned, my name is Kata Sybenga, and I'm the Legislative and Political Director. I want to give you a brief look at what happened behind the scenes in Congress as it put together the American Rescue Plan, and how NTEU worked to make sure you got the emergency paid leave you needed. When President Biden included a proposal for emergency paid leave in his American Rescue Plan earlier this year, we saw an opportunity to work with Congress to secure additional paid leave options for federal employees, and we jumped on it. Unfortunately, since the bill was considered under the budget reconciliation process, there were limitations on what Congress could include and how the leave program had to be structured. And Doreen will get into some of the specific limitations of this leave program in a moment. But we were pleased that the bill at least ensured that federal employees will not be forced to take leave without pay to deal with COVID-related issues. Now, as the bill moved through Congress, we did hit a few snags. Some members of Congress wanted to limit the leave or strip it out of the bill. In fact, the Senate voted on an amendment that would have eliminated it completely. But we called on our allies in Congress for help, and they stepped up. They fought for you and won. The amendment failed on a party line vote, and the emergency paid leave was part of the American Rescue Plan Act that was signed into law. So with that, I'll turn this over to Doreen Greenwald, who'll take you through some of the specifics of the paid leave. Doreen?
Thank you, Kata. Hello, I'm Doreen Greenwald, Special Assistant to the National President and the former Chapter President of NTEU Chapter 1. The Emergency Paid Leave Program is a temporary program designed to help mitigate the effects of COVID-19 related circumstances on employees. I'm going to walk you through some of the highlights and limits you need to keep in mind. The American Rescue Plan authorizes this temporary leave to help employees manage COVID-related issues. Let's start with some of the basics. The Emergency Paid Leave Program provides federal employees with up to 600 hours of paid emergency leave. The leave is available from March 11th through September 30th. It is good news that the leave is retroactive to March 11th. You can use the leave to cover 8 situations. The full list is on the screen, but a few examples include: you are ordered to quarantine because of COVID, have COVID symptoms and are waiting for a doctor's diagnosis, caring for children whose school is operating virtually, or caring for someone who is under quarantine. The Emergency Paid Leave Fund contains $570 million to cover all federal employees. So it is likely that the fund will run out due to demand before the September 30th deadline. Of course, there are forms. They must be submitted for each pay period in which you request the leave. The forms include the request for the leave and documentation to support your request. You must certify that you are unable to work, including telework, and qualify for one of the eligible circumstances, and that you understand the total amount of the emergency paid leave reduces your credible service when calculating your retirement annuity. The leave will be approved conditionally and is dependent on the fund still having money. If the fund runs out of money, you also agree to resolve any debt. In other words, you will pay your agency back. Details on that shortly. Let's talk process for a moment. After you submit the paperwork, you will receive conditional approval to use the emergency paid leave. Your agency will then process your request. Your agency then submits a repayment request to OPM, which is managing the fund. OPM reimburses requests in the order they are received. Once again, if the money is gone, your emergency paid leave is canceled and you are responsible for the repayment. You have some options. You may substitute another form of paid leave, such as annual leave or sick leave, as appropriate. If you don't have paid leave, you may substitute the canceled leave with leave without pay. This creates a debt you can pay with a lump sum payment or through an installment plan. Information about how to repay the debt is included on the debt notice you will receive. NTEU will be monitoring the fund and will keep our chapters informed when the balances gets low. There is a cap of $2,800 per pay period per employee. So how does this cap work? Employees will receive the same pay for emergency paid leave hours they would receive if they were on annual leave. Over an 80-hour pay period, that $2,800 equals an average hourly adjusted rate of basic pay of $35. Any additional time off needed must come from other leave sources, such as annual or sick leave, if appropriate. Or you can ask for leave without pay. That sounds confusing, I know. These examples may help. If your hourly adjusted rate of basic pay is $35 or less, you can use up to 80 hours of emergency paid leave in a biweekly pay period. If your hourly adjusted rate of basic pay is $70, you are limited to 40 hours of emergency paid leave in a biweekly pay period. You can request other available leave to cover the remaining hours. Not sure what your hourly rate is? Check out your pay information on opm.gov and make sure to include your proper locality pay area. The pay charts include the hourly rate for your grade and step, including your locality pay. You may remember that earlier I said the emergency paid leave is available beginning March 11th, the date the American Rescue Plan was signed into law. Here's how that part works. If you took leave without pay on or after March 11th, 2021, and the reason you took that leave without pay is covered by the American Rescue Plan, then agencies must convert that leave without pay into emergency paid leave. The cap of the $2,800 per pay period is still in place, and the fund still has to have money. Remember, you still should submit the paperwork making this request. Similarly, if you took annual leave or sick leave on or after March 11th for a qualifying circumstance, you can request that annual or sick leave as appropriate. Be converted to applying for the emergency paid leave. Employees need to decide whether it is in their best interest to request that personal paid leave be converted to emergency paid leave. The approval process for retroactive and prospective emergency paid leave is the same. But unlike leave without pay, it is up to each agency to determine whether it will approve requests to convert personal paid leave to emergency paid leave. NTEU is strongly encouraging agencies to do so. Replacing paid sick leave or annual leave with emergency paid leave is subject to the $2,800 cap, and any additional time off not covered by the emergency paid leave will remain charged to personal paid leave. If you wish to apply for emergency paid leave, I encourage you to submit your request for retroactive leave along with the necessary documentation and certifications as soon as possible. Here is another tip for you. OPM is asking agencies to provide administrative leave for employees to obtain vaccines of up to 4 hours for each vaccine required. OPM is also recommending that agencies grant up to 2 workdays of administrative leave per dose if an employee has an adverse reaction to the vaccination. So take advantage of these options and get vaccinated. While emergency paid leave can be used for these purposes, you should take advantage of using any admin time your agency offers. By doing so, this will help preserve the fund. If you received your vaccine on or after March 11th and used annual or sick leave, I suggest you request substituting your personal leave with paid administrative leave. I know that was a lot of information. Even so, you may still have questions. I encourage you to reach out to your local NTEU chapter officers and stewards for additional help. NTEU is pleased to have supported this option for federal employees.